The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again. There's a bad guy coming through. Better get out of his way.
Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
Introduce a little anarchy.
The Frankie Nieto Show.
The middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. Very, very historic.
See, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Sway is locking eyes with an undercover cop on the subway. You know what he is, and he knows what you are, and you wink at him.
The Frankie Nieto Show.
I'm the enemy, because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit with a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati and a non-smoke accepted. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas drinking a banana broccoli shake singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer wiener.
There can be no bad blood between those who've experienced the same pain.
Fuck damnation, man. Fuck redemption. We are God's unwanted children. So be it!
We have succumbed to mindless ritual and seductive ceremony. Place faith in those who cross descent, enrich themselves with power, commit atrocity, all in the name of righteousness.
Jesus was black, Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11.
Try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. This is a, I guess you could call it an emergency broadcast because it's a midterm election time here, and not only here in Texas but throughout the country. And so we're going to be talking with Miss Elizabeth Werts. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Isabel.
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 And she's going to be talking about the latest amendment proposal to the House Charter to keep, I'm paraphrasing it, but what it is to keep our politicians accountable, and so that they can't transfer one fund to another without getting our approval and making sure that's what's best for the residents of our community. Okay, well, Miss Isabella, if you wouldn't mind just giving our listeners and our viewers a little background of who you are and how you got into the game.
Okay. Well, my husband and I here retired to Fredericksburg almost 20 years ago. We were passing through and he wanted to visit the Nimitz. We were in Kerrville. So we came and he went to the museum and I walked around town, and we were at a stage in our life where we were pretty free to live where we wanted to. And when we got together again, I said, this is where we're going to live. And that was a Friday, and we bought our home on Sunday. And we moved here, that was in October, we moved here the following spring. We just felt at home with the people of the city, and we were very happy with what we saw, what was going on. And then in 2010, my husband was reading an article from the newspaper while I was preparing potluck for our community, and he read the statement that the mayor had made. Well, we're going to issue a certificates of obligation so we don't have to take it to the people to vote on. And that, my little ears just pricked up. And so they were proposing a $3.2 million aquatic center at Lady Bird Johnson Park, and closing the town pool. Now, I've been a bilingual teacher here in the town, and I am very concerned with our lower economic population. And I knew that the town pool was a big chunk of what recreation these children had in the summer, and I was not going to sit still and watch that close. So immediately I took a petition to Potluck because I found out that the only way to stop them was to get a petition with 5% of the population of the registered voters, and we could put it on the ballot. And so that was my goal. Well, lo and behold, there were some other people who already knew about this aquatic center, kept in touch with what was going on with the local politicians more than I did. And so the 7 of us got together, and in 1 week we had enough signatures to put on the ballot the bond issue for a $3.2 million aquatic center. And the council, of course, heard about this petition, and before we could take it to the city secretary, the council decided to put the bond issue on the ballot. Now, along with the bond issue on this petition, we also specified that revenue from the electrical fund could not be transferred to another fund, because in our research we found out that in 2009 they had transferred over $1 million from the electrical to the golf club fund so that they could pay off a $1.5 million certificates of obligation, which they used to build the clubhouse without voter approval. So there we go. Now we get started. Also in this election, we were able to elect our candidate, who was one of the 7 that circulated the petition, one of the moving forces, and actually the man who told us about the transfer of the $1 million fund. And in 2001, the bond issue lost 3-1. Once the people were aware of what was going on because it was on the ballot, then they acted. Okay, in 2011, when they were working on the budget, the council passed a $1.8 million loan. They changed it from transfer, you see, to a loan. And our candidate was the deciding vote to pass that.
Really?
Yes. So that was a big, bitter disappointment. Then in the next election, we found a candidate who would stand for office, who we felt confident that he would stand up for this, leave the utility funds alone. And he lost by 75 points. So we said, okay, that process doesn't seem to be benefiting us, so let's look for some other way that we can legally prohibit this draining of our utility fees. And we spent about 6 months researching other alternatives, and we settled on an amendment, the amendment process. We took another year formulating the words of the amendment so that they would be legal, that we touched as many concerns as we had, and then when the final version was ready, we took it to legal counsel to have it approved, that yes, the wording was good. So let me give you the wording of the amendment. Okay, I'm going to read it because I haven't memorized it. The City of Fredericksburg shall not use proceeds or reserves from an enterprise fund, including but not limited to the electric, water, sewer, solid waste, and drainage funds, except for expenditures within the purpose of the fund, unless approved by the voters in elections that specify the amount and the fund from which the money will be withdrawn. Okay, what does it mean? It means that city government may not use the fees that they collect from us to get electricity, water, sewer, solid waste, drainage services, except to meet the cost of operating that department, reserves to cover deficits, because sometimes they might project so much income and then fall short. They need to have a little reserve to cover that shortfall.
Right, it's like any business plan.
Right. We are a business.
Right.
And capital improvements. Like for instance, the water treatment plan right now is in trouble because it is not complying with the regulations of the Environmental Commission, and that there should be a reserve fund there, so where they could have been doing a little bit every year, not having to float a bond issue, to all of a sudden do all the repairs at once.
Right, yeah, because I've seen that in the recent news that now they are talking about the fact that the water treatment center needs upgrades. And now the first thing I thought about when I read it was, well, I could have worn. We had some money in there. Oh, that's right. We spent it on a golf course. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So okay.
So
now some people. Well, what's the big deal about transferring money? You know, it's all our money. You know, so what harm is this gonna do from us? Just go ahead and borrowing the money from ourselves because that's what it does, right? I mean, we're just borrowing from ourselves.
Well, unfortunately, it's very harmful to the people who live in the city, to the residents who pay the fees for these essential services, because you take money out. Well, you got to raise the fees to get it back in, okay? And so who suffers? It's and we have many, the seniors who are living on a fixed income, some of it less than $1,000 a month. We have most of our employees in town, because of its tourism, are making minimum wage. Our young families who would very much like to raise their children in this environment, which we all love, right? Fredericksburg is the place to be. And so those are the people that really suffer, because they take the money out for renovating the golf course. Now, these people probably in their lifetime will never set foot on that golf course. The people who do can well afford to pay for their own recreation. So the golf course should be self-supporting, and that means raise the dues, raise the fees, and so it is harmful, okay? Because you take away, you've got to raise rates to put it back in.
Okay. Now, have we seen? Has there already been? Because this is something. They loaned that money a while ago. What was it, 2009, right?
No, it was the loan was actually made in 2011.
Okay, so do you know of, have we seen already impact of that, where fees have now become higher?
Oh yes, definitely. They have gone up. They went up that very same 2011. They were at this budget workshop and they approved this loan, and the very next thing on the agenda was raising rates, because Fredericksburg has the lowest rates of any of the cities around, close to. Now, as a politician, I would say, hey, that's something to crow about.
Yeah.
Not say, listen, you're not paying enough because you don't match, what Bernie plays. But then they match us with Georgetown, Weatherford.
Bigger hubs than what we are. Right?
Yeah, with more services that are necessary to keep the cities running. And so I started doing comparison with the 10 Texas cities that match our geographical and population profile. And those are the cities that I have been comparing us with. Although I don't think that comparison is really a valid way to set your goals. It should be what's best for Fredericksburg,
right.
The people who live in Fredericksburg. What's best for them? And so, yes, the fees have gone up and up. And this is one thing that, I've been doing this since 2010. I attended every council meeting, every public hearing, every budget workshop when I was in town. And we do travel a lot, so that doesn't mean every single one. But if I hadn't attended these things, I wouldn't know a lot of this stuff to bring up. So, there is a charge that the city makes to the electrical, water, and solid waste funds. It's called in lieu of taxes. Okay, in place of a tax is what that means. And this is an accounting term that has traditionally been used to charge federal and local governments a fee to take the place of the property tax they don't pay. We've got the post office. It doesn't pay property tax. So this is what this fee was used for. Well, they've been charging this against our utilities, and in 2011 there was a $400,000 shortfall in our general budget. So how do we cure this? We raised the in lieu of tax fee from 4% to 6%, And that will make up for some of the loss. Not let's look and see where we can cut.
Right. Well, because then when I guess they're in their mind they're seeing it that if we say we got to raise taxes, we're gonna get voted against. We're gonna get kicked out of office. So let's find this other way that people aren't really aware of, that they're actually, because in this lieu of taxes process, they could actually, the charge that they're gonna pass on to like the electric company and the waste company right now, which is then gets passed on to us, is actually going to be, it probably would be higher than if there was a general tax increase, like on the sales tax or something like that.
Well, let me tell you, from 2011 to the 2014 budget, that tax has gone up 100%, from 4% to 8%, without us knowing, right?
Right.
Unless you went to the budget meetings and knew what was going on, because it took me 2 years to even know what an in lieu of tax was. And this is a hidden tax, and it is a disgrace. This year we're taking $1.5 million out of the electrical, water, and solid waste combined. They each do a different amount because they each make different amounts of money. And putting it in the general fund. Okay, well, now, how does that money, that $1.5 million, get spent? We don't know. They don't have to account to us how they spend it. They can spend it any way they want. Okay, a couple of months ago, we did pass 2 bond issues for swimming pools, one in town and one at the park. Okay, the park pool bond was $1.8 million. And so they first did the town pool. It was 1.4, and they could keep the park pool open, so they closed the town pool, built the new one, and it came $80,000 over budget. So what did they do? The people voted 1.4 million, and we got to keep it there, so we're going to cut. They cut so much that now the locals call it the concrete hole, because they had cut so many of the amenities out. Now here comes a year and a half later, the park pool, and the bid is $500,000 to $600,000 over bid. The people voted for that park plan, and that's what we're going to give them. And so we're going to take this $500,000 out of the general fund reserve, which is taking $1.5 million out of the and so. So anyway, so we are actually spending $500,000 more than the people approved, without going back to them and saying, "Hey, is this what you want?"
Well, we see that a lot when it's with government planning. For some reason, they always give us a number, and then a few months into the project, it's always their hands back out, saying, "Hey, you know what? It's gonna do this. It's gonna cost us a little more of that." And I guess it just shows, because we're not just seeing it on the local level, we're seeing it on the federal level too. There's just irresponsible people because they're not dealing with their money.
Trickle down effect. It starts up here, and then the local government. But let me tell you something about that park pool plan, because I was very much involved in fighting that. For one thing, the park pool could have been renovated, could have been brought up to standards. And so this is what they did. The council was furious, and I use that word because that's how they approached me with it, that we had defeated this aquatic, that we will even dare to try to stop them from building this aquatic center. And this came out in the council meetings. And so they said, okay, we're gonna have a committee, but we're gonna let anybody who wants to join that committee. They had 33 people. My husband was one of the ones. He and I basically agree on basics, but his approach to how to solve the problem and mine are quite different. He's more the diplomat. So he said, well, I'm going to join the committee and,
see what I can do.
Yeah, and he is very good about convincing people of his point of view. I said, it's a waste of time. They've already decided what they're going to do. And so he went his way, I went mine, and we did not converse about this together, all right? So the first thing the committee did was send out a survey of what the people wanted. And they had a list of things, like 10 swimming lanes, gradual incline into the pool, all these high dollar items.
Right.
Okay, so, and I have everything I say, I have documents, written documents to prove what I'm saying. So the survey came out. Well, it went completely against what they wanted, so they just ignored it. They never published the results, and everything in that park pool was voted in the survey again. I mean, the people said, no, we don't want that.
Right.
Okay, so I was against that park pool from the get-go, and so now they're adding another $500,000, to this plan. And when we were in this debate, I wrote and I said, may I please see the published bids when they came out with this $1.8 million?
Right.
And I was told, oh, we don't have a written bid, we have a site bid. And I, not knowing, much about anything, I said, well, what's a site bid? Oh, it's where they go and they look at the property and they look at things and they give you an estimate of how much it's going to cost. In other words, they never knew how much it was going to cost.
Okay, so
that's my opinion, that they never knew.
Well, I mean, it's easy to draw the conclusion if they can't tell you, well, we don't have any actual bid.
And I have the email that says
wow.
this. So anyway, so
well, now some detractors from this amendment, and all of them seem to be people that are sitting on city council at the moment, which go figure. You would think during a midpoint election, though, somebody would be screaming, no, yeah, I'm down with an accountable government. Yeah, vote me in. But all of them seem to be saying that kind of the same meme, though, of this is just going to slow us down. We're not going to be able to, conduct business efficiently as a government. Or my favorite quote from Graham Pearson, and I saw it in the paper, was him saying, goes, well, if you don't like or trust your elected officials, vote for new ones. And so, well, why can't I just place a law that it doesn't matter which one comes in, that they have to follow the law? So I was just wondering on your thoughts on those kind of things. And of course, our current mayor right now is sitting there saying, vote no against this amendment because, like I said, he's one of the fields that we wouldn't be able to operate as an effective government if this amendment was in there.
Right. Well, the first thing the city did was publish 12 facts, and they put these facts in the utility bills twice. That goes to every person that lives here. Well, they call it a fact sheet. Then right underneath they said these are considerations. In other words, they kind of said, well, they may not be facts, but these are things for you to consider. And so we rebutted every one of those 12 facts. And when there was something like that we didn't really know, like for instance, they said that they had a revenue bond that was due in 2033, that the amendment violated the terms. It's number 11 on the fact sheet. The city currently has that's not in there. That's in this is the fact sheet. That's something different.
Okay.
It says the city now has revenue bonds,
right,
which mature 2033. That proposed amendment would violate the terms of the bonds. I emailed under the Public Information Act to please give us a copy of the bond, which they did right away. So we had 6 people look at this bond, and some of them accountants, some of them retired executives that have dealt with large corporations of billions of dollars.
Really?
And so, yes, because once we got accused of, just who on your committee has ever dealt with municipal budgets? Wow. So I had to, one was a superintendent of schools in a small town, but anyway, so we got it and we looked at it. We couldn't find it, so then I emailed under the Public Information Act. I said, please give me the terms that are in this bond that the amendment violates. And so my response was, well, we can't give you interpretation or a legal opinion of the bonds. To me, if they put it on their fact sheet, that is a legal opinion.
Right, yeah. Well,
they don't have the terms.
Right, okay.
So anyway, this is the 12 points. We rebutted each one of them. When we didn't know the answer, we asked for documentations, and every time we were told there are no documents to support this. Well, you wouldn't call it a fact, you would call it a speculation.
Right, yeah, it's more of an opinion.
Yeah, so anyway, that's that. I think that we pretty much have rebutted. Now,
okay, well, something I wanted to talk about too is something I saw you bring up, and I'm trying to find it in here.
I can tell you if you let me know what
but,
it is.
But it's referring to the cost that we pay an attorney when it comes to royalty things, and apparently the one in Kerr County, or no, not Kerr County, but Bear County?
No,
or
Bernie.
Bernie.
The city of Bernie.
Is getting paid, well, I think it said less than what we pay the guy that does it only now and then, and this person's a full-time employee.
Right, right. Actually, the city attorney is a woman.
Oh, sorry.
And when I first started looking at budgets, she was paid $42,000 a year. That I could see. Now I have since found out that the administrative salaries are sometimes parceled out to other departments. And in the budget it just says total regular wages, and then they have a total amount. They don't tell you how much of that money is going to which position. So apparently this is a practice, and practice throughout Texas. But anyway, so it's not illegal, or they wouldn't be doing it. But so anyway, I found out that the attorney was part-time. And not only was she part-time, but they also paid a part-time assistant to help her with her many duties.
Really?
So now, the latest that I got from the city manager as to her salary was that it was over $100,000. Okay? Now, when I first saw that discrepancy of 42 and now it's 70 and now it's, I contacted my 10 cities of profile, and Bernie was the only one who hired an attorney. The rest of them all did it as needed. They had someone on, what do you call it? Retainer. And so, and that was in, I think it was the 2012 or 2013 budget, where they had just hired a full-time city attorney the year before, and they were paying him $107,000. Now, I did not get back to them this year to see how much his salary had gone up, but surely not, $5,000. I hope not. Or those citizens should be getting on their high horse. But number 9, legal costs. It says this is the city's fiscal what the amendment, how the amendment would affect the finances of Fredericksburg, and you have to do it by state law. You have to, and it's under legal notices. Okay, in the paper. It has to be published twice. It was published last week and then again this week. So number 11 on their little fiscal thing, it says that number 9, the legal costs. Litigation may be necessary to interpret the meaning of the charter amendment and whether it is constitutional and enforceable under Texas law. Now, the first response was because they fought not to put the amendment on the ballot for 4 months, okay? And so during those 4 months, I know that they had outside legal counsel come in to their closed sessions to counsel them on this amendment. Right. So my question at first was, well, you had 4 months and you could not find anyone that would tell you if it was constitutional or enforceable? And where are the written opinions for this $9,000 that you paid out? Right. And I had, at the beginning, when they were not putting the amendment on the ballot, I asked for a written legal opinion from the city attorney, and I was ignored. So anyway, now the city pays a part-time attorney an average salary of $100,000 because they have a base salary and then hours. It's $175 an hour, whatever she spends above whatever they consider base. So it varies. Now, my opinion is, why don't we have a full-time city attorney, pay him the same wages, and then we don't have any extra litigation costs?
Again, talking about the government, and they don't always operate in common
elderly housewife, who doesn't really know about budgets.
Right. You don't. Sometimes the way I've kind of approached things about learning about things is the best way is when you need it. If you don't need to know about budgets until you're having to pay abnormal prices in electricity bills, then hey, you'll learn a budget.
Especially when you get into my age and that little computer up here has got all kinds of stuff in it.
Okay, and so you brought up some really good points, and I'm glad to brought some really interesting facts to light about how our city is operating. Because the latest bond measurement after the pools was that approval for that jail, the $16 million Taj Mahal, and so now we've been assured on the county level that that's going to come in under budget, if not at budget. So they said the same thing with the pools. They've said the same thing with everything. So we can see that this amendment would actually help in that kind of issue. So if they start to go over budget in that jail, they'll have to scale it down.
Actually, this amendment does not concern the county. That's a separate government.
Even though the city does pay into it.
Right.
To approve that.
Right. We pay county taxes to pay for that jail. But that's completely separate. And something interesting about this jail also was the fact that CTEC, which has by some agreement in 1948 or something, that they can supply electricity to certain areas of the city.
Right.
And so it happens that the county jail is within that area. So CTEC went and said, well, we can supply electricity to the jail at a cheaper rate than the city. So the county, the next thing we know is the city saying, well, we may have to, have some litigation here. And the next thing the county is saying, well, we don't want any litigation, so we'll just pay the city's rate.
Right. Well, it's because the county is under a lot of pressure with the commissioners do get a lot of gump. I see, because I go to more counties because I live in the county. I live further outside.
Yes, they do.
Limits.
They do.
And so they get a lot more people to come there and poke at them. So I know that probably that was not so much of just playing with the game, but a lot of it might have been just the fact that we told our voters we're going to have it done by this time, so we don't want to be held up by you. So
I don't attend those meetings, so I'm not sure what their thinking was, but just reading the newspaper, I would call it, my opinion, intimidation. And the other time that happened, and again, I was not paying close attention to it, was when the city and the county were arguing about the aggravation easement over at the airport, where there were some trees that had to be cut down, and the city said the county has to pay for them, and the county didn't want to, and blah, blah, blah. And so finally, the county gave them the money. Okay, well, $500,000 of that money went to make up deficits from the golf course. 1 year, $350,000 paid and it didn't pay the whole deficit.
No.
Just half of it. And another time, $200,000. That's our county taxes at work.
Right.
It affects us too.
Right. Wow. This pool, though, the golf course seems to be the biggest site, sore thumb in our region right now.
Well,
and we were pitched it that if we do this, then we'll be able to attract pro tours, and we'll get celebrities here. As far as I know, celebrities still come to Fredericksburg regardless of our golf course, and really I haven't seen anybody other than the normal people up at the golf course that are normally there. Just some dudes that are here for a weekend out of the year. And it's not really helping us financially in no sort, but yet I'm still having to pay a lot for it.
Right. Well, unfortunately, not just this administration, but going back a few years, and I'm just going to say, since about 2005 or the early 2000s, the government has focused on tourism. Now, they sell that by saying, oh, it brings more money into Fredericksburg. Yeah, but money to whom? To the businesses. It does not bring it to the citizens. We have to pay higher fees in order to accommodate the tourists. We are subsidizing, in the last 2 years, we subsidized a round of golf at the clubhouse, at the golf course, by over $200 a round. And one of the candidates for office bragged that 9,000 of those rounds were from people who didn't live in the city.
Wow.
Now, this figure appeared in a letters to the editor, and no one in the government responded that that was wrong, because it was an accountant and he had his figures and he had it was on the website.
Really say anything. And okay, speaking of that, and like I said, there is some detractors, of course, people that side with the government on this. And I saw in the letters of the editor, someone was talking about the fact that certain members of the administration are claiming that this petition that was started had shady unders, or there's miscommunications, or there's gaps in between how this petition was carried out. Do you know anything about that?
I know everything about it because I was one of the ones who started the petition. We did a one petition drive, and this is the brainchild of a political activist in Houston. His name is Barry Klein, and he started this movement where, rather than going door to door, which we had been doing and had been taking us, a lot of time, that on election day you have your issue and your petition outside of the precincts, and then you've already run ads in the paper, so people are expecting you to be there, and you sign the petition. Well, we had to come in with 360 some signatures for the 5% of the registered voters, and we came out with over 400 signatures in one day. Okay. Well, there was a debate about whether it needed to be notarized, each petition notarized, or whether it didn't. And actually, the committee was split in opinion. And so we got legal counsel, and he said, just to be on the safe side, do the notarization. Okay. So when the city secretary, and it's in the local government code, a city secretary is only to check the signatures to see if they are registered voters. That's her only mandate. Okay? Now, and I'm not blaming the city secretary because I'm sure she was under pressure, but she came to the meeting and said that there were too many irregularities in the petition for her to be able to recommend approving it. Okay? So we took her list of irregularities, and we negated each one of them. And for example, in fact, there's a letter to the editor last week from one of our petition gatherers, and she was one whose, I don't know, she had 50 or so signatures were supposedly irregular because she signed the petition as being one of the circulators, and it got notarized, but she forgot to sign the petition. So because she forgot to sign the petition, they were going to negate all 50 signatures. That was the kind of irregularities that they're talking about.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And it gets even more ridiculous, but I won't go into that because I could
imagine that.
let me tell you.
Give us a little taste.
Okay, the other thing is that it said there were, I think, 30 signatures that invalidated because the person who gathered the signatures was not a city resident. But the code says you do not need to be a city resident. In fact, we could go out and hire people to go canvass the neighborhood and collect signatures.
Right.
But they were going to invalidate his 30 signatures.
Huh.
Okay, so anyway, we finally, when they wouldn't listen to our rebuttal for the irregularities, we finally had to hire legal counsel. And so we were, Jose Garza from San Antonio was recommended to us. He specializes in civil rights, and he does local and state government. He's has actually appeared before the state Supreme Court. So this is not some, buddy from some little strip mall that we got. And so he handed in a 4-page legal opinion with everything stated on why it was not irregular. The conclusion was that if the council did not put the amendment on the ballot, anyone who signed the ballot could go to court and file a mandamus. A mandamus means that the court will tell the council either put it on the ballot or we will force you to put it on the ballot. So this is what happened. We were told that the ballot irregularities were going to be discussed. This was the deadline from when they could move one way or the other. Right. And we got there, and the mayor said, "Well, because our legal counsel has said there might be some irregularities in this petition, we've decided to deny the petition." 2 breaths later, he said, "But because there seemed to be an interest in this, we are going to go ahead and place it on the ballot."
This way you can still play both sides.
And I said, "Fine, I will let them save face. I'm not going to make a big deal about it's legal and And so I didn't do anything about it. Just went, okay, it's on the ballot. That's all we care about. Forget it. So then, about a month or so ago, there's a letter from the mayor to the editor saying, basically, out of the goodness of our heart, we put the amendment on the ballot. Well, then, I'm a little confrontational in case you haven't noticed. So that was the red flag. And so, no, they are absolutely wrong. They were wrong in calling it irregular. The reporter from the Standard did a very nice job on reporting both sides of the story, I thought, a couple of issues ago. I don't know if you read it. It was on the front page. But he put that the petition had been irregular, even though I had given him a copy of the legal opinion.
Right, really? Well, same thing though. Like,
but I'm not criticizing him.
Well, it's a safe face type thing.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay, well, like I said, Isabella, you have given us a lot of stuff to think about.
I have some things that I would like to add at the end.
Sure.
Okay. For one thing, some other facts that should be brought out. They have nothing to do with the amendment. Okay. The city does not provide the total expenditure for supplying water to Boot Ranch or the total revenue collected. Are we subsidizing this service? Now, Boot Ranch is a multi-million-dollar golf development outside of the city. This is, yes, not only that, but big. Those homes are, you don't see $1 million homes out there. They're over $1 million. But the city agreed, under a different administration, the city agreed that they would supply water to the golf course. And I didn't pay, this was one of my non-involvement days. I didn't pay any attention to it, although I did hear complaints about people who lived in the county whose wells were drying up because of this and who had to drill new wells. So then at one of the council meetings that I didn't attend because I don't attend council meetings, one of the councilmen said, "Now I believe that we're spending more money getting water to Boot Ranch than we're collecting from them." Okay, I said, I need to look into this.
Right.
Well, I contacted her that night and said, I congratulate you for bringing this up at council meeting. And they had decided they were going to research it. I said, "Would you let me know what the research is?" So I waited, nothing. Then this amendment started getting closer, so we actually did a public information request, one of the women on our committee. And so she was told, now, first thing was, now, do you want just the golf course or do you want the golf course and the residents? So she said both, separately, both. So then the next one said, well, We have gathered your information. You can come and pick it up, but it'll cost you $29.50. She said, fine. Okay, she received an envelope with a stack of copies that high. There are 17 residents out there. It was the water bill for those 17 residents for the last 5 years.
Wow.
With no total. This is the information you requested. So when she went back and said, you misunderstood my question. I said total revenue, total, collection. And so then they replied, we gave you the information that is required by law. We do not have any written documents with this information. So we have a director of finance, and he doesn't know how much it's costing to supply a service to an entity and how much he's collecting. Okay, that's the other thing is we are having the former Texas Rangers Foundation build a museum on I-90 prime real estate. Probably, I mean, it's over 11 acres, probably worth in the millions.
Easy.
They get it for a base $1 a year base until they start construction. Then it goes up to $1,000. Then after 7 years, it goes up to whatever the appraised value, the current rental value is. Okay, but then the next clause is everything in Clause B, which states how much they're paying, may be forgiven if the foundation does not go back on what they promised to do. So what's going to happen in 10 years? Do you think they're going to be paying the going rate?
No.
Okay.
Wow.
Not only that,
I missed that pause of
I have got the contract if you would like to see the copy of it.
Yeah, we'll love that.
Now, I had, when this was first brought to my attention, I had word from, I won't say who, that no city money would be spent. That was all foundation money. Okay. Then, a couple of newspapers ago, I read the article, and it says that they are spending $119,000 to provide them with services and an additional $63,000 in case they need to move any of those services for added expenses. Now, the foundation is not paying that. Okay, now, I already mentioned the town pool. Now, when they did the loan, we were given promise. This is a legitimate loan because we kept saying it's just another name for a transfer. We are charging 1% interest. They're going to make their first payments in 2014. We are not going to rob Peter to pay Paul, blah, blah, blah. Well, here comes 2014 budget. Yes. The golf fund pays $54,000 back to the electrical and solid waste thing. But look up in general revenue, there is $127,000 transfer to the golf course.
Wow. Well, like I said,
and there are so many more.
Well, it's typical government, though.
Oh, yes.
They make you pay attention to one hand and then tell you something.
They don't think that you're going to remember what they said or that it's going to be in the paper and you're going to have it cut out.
Well, like how we were talking at a bit of in the personal, that it seems that the apathy sets in and most people have operated into that position of, well, they're going to do what they want anyway, and so they give up. And so right now it seems in the last few years, I'm going to say the last decade really, that the administrations have said, okay, well, we realize people really aren't paying attention, so let's take advantage of it. It's sad to see, and I'm glad there's people like you and others out here that are trying to make a difference and at least make people at least pay attention, you know, because I went to battle with the jail thing back and forth. I actually stood outside the courthouse for a week straight. I was rained on, and I still lost that battle because we're still getting that Taj Mahal built.
And I do not understand that vote at all.
But it made me laugh, though, because I go see an update meeting, and all these people are now there going, oh, wait, we didn't want this, and I look at them, and I'm like, I was telling you this 6 months before they were starting to do this. Where were you? But, you know, that's the human in me, get angry about it. But next time...
But, you know, the people that it hurts, they're not... they don't have the means to be educated, to know what's, they're too busy earning a living,
Right.
you know? And so, but you know, Samuel Adams said, it doesn't take a majority, but an irate minority to keep the fires of freedom burning in the hearts of men.
So, along the final note about this amendment, what is one last thing you'd like people to know, and where could they go vote, and when is election day?
Okay. I would like to leave them with this note. If the amendment fails, we will be back in 2 years with it again. It took 2 votes for the home charter rule to pass, and we will continue to present this amendment until it passes. The election, we have to wait 2 years because that's the law. You can't put another amendment on the ballot for 2 years. The early election, is today the 6th? I've lost time.
It is the 5th today.
5th, okay. Tomorrow is the last day for early election, and City Hall will be open from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Nope, I'm sorry, till 8:30 p.m. They're open late, from 8:30 to 8:30. Election day is at the middle school on Saturday, May 10th, that's next Saturday, and the polls will be open from 7 to 7. If any of you feel strongly about this, please come out and help us pass out the rebuttal sheets and the information card. You'd be surprised how many people go to vote and don't know what the issue is. So.
Okay. And like I said, thank you. And well, you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the last you'll hear from her. And now, if someone wanted to get more information with you, is this FBG Gov 4, the number 4, FBG@yahoo.com, a great place to reach you at?
It is an email site that we started when we first started this in 2010, and it will always. I'm not a Facebook person or any of that stuff, so I was barely knowledgeable about email when I started. So that's what we use. I don't know how to do a website. So anyway, if you will send an email to FBG GOV, the numeral 4, FBG. In other words, Fredericksburg government for Fredericksburg, not for the tourists.
Okay.
Oh, at yahoo.com.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And
I want to thank you. I did not know about your endeavor until you contacted me, and I am so happy to see young people get involved in this process.
I'm not that young.
Well, probably half my age, but because that is the sadness, in our country, is that we've lost that contact with our government, and too many people in government say, you elect us and then we tell you what's right. You don't have a word in it because you elected us. This is a representative government, and I will tell you how many times I heard that during this campaign.
Yeah.
So I just it really lifts my spirit to see someone at your age to really stand outside the courthouse in the rain. I love it.
Hi, my name's Frankie. My whole life I've been told what to think and how to think. I've had enough of that. Join me on the Frankie Nieto Show, and together we can introduce a little anarchy, because after all, anarchists be thou for the people.